I'll be the first to admit that I don't think very highly of myself. It's not that I necessarily deal with excessively negative self-talk, I just don't think I'm all that special, because really I don't think anybody's all that special.
I'm special!
And so I don't really think about it very often, but every once in a while it's pointed out to me that I've accomplished quite a bit for my age. And even though I don't realize it, I guess it's true. At 30 years old, I have started and run a fairly successful business while also operating a lucrative side hustle simultaneously. I bought a house and then sold that house and bought another and then had the entire place renovated, all while taking care of myself and taking care of Levi and his medical issues, doing all the cooking, cleaning, shopping, home maintenance, and yard work. I've also taught myself how to play the guitar, how to set up and maintain a saltwater aquarium, how to formulate properly balanced dog food for Levi, how to invest. Oh, and I guess how to shoot and edit videos so I could also run this YouTube channel at the exact same time. And I guess when I lay it all out like that, it does sound like a lot. But the truth is that this entire time I've had a secret weapon, one thing that I prioritize over everything else, which allows me to do everything I need to do and have the energy to do so without feeling overworked or burnt out. And no, it's not coffee or crack, it's sleep.
I'm just a big toasty cinnamon bun. I never want to leave this bed.
For reasons I don't quite understand, I think sleep has always gotten a bad rap. Like it's something that we all kind of have to do to some extent, but it's something that we're not supposed to take pride in or brag about or do excessively. It's something that we're not really supposed to acknowledge enjoying, kind of like pooping, which I think is bullshit on both fronts. Sleeping a lot has always been associated with immaturity and been seen as something that lazy people do. And this is exemplified by our current hustle culture, where it's like, get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, work 3 jobs, I'll sleep when I'm dead. And honestly, I have never been able to relate to that worldview, nor have I ever wanted to.
You wake up at 8 a.m., I'm already on my 3rd nap by then.
I was late pretty much every day for the entire time that I was in school, from kindergarten until I graduated grade 12. In particular, in grade 9, I had a first period French teacher, and every single day I would be late to class and the same thing would happen. She'd lock me out, and then maybe 20 minutes later, she'd come out to the hallway to find me, and she would interrogate me on why I was late. And I would tell her that I just couldn't get out of bed. And in truth, I don't think she believed me. I think she thought I was just kind of screwing around in the hallways or doing something I shouldn't have been doing. Every day, she'd march me to the office, she'd call my mother, and my mom would reiterate the exact same thing I just told her, basically saying like,
Yes, I know Nicole's late. I literally just dropped her off. I don't really know what I'm supposed to do. She wouldn't get out of bed in the morning.
And what was she supposed to do? Was she gonna drag me out of bed by my ankles, brush my teeth, and dress me at 14 years old? I don't think so. I never really liked school, and so honestly, I didn't really care that I was late, and I think that that attitude was abundantly obvious to most of my teachers, which maybe led them to believe I was doing it on purpose. But even still, I really wasn't. I honestly couldn't help it. Even once I got there, I would spend the majority of the day just nodding off in my seat. I was useless. I basically spent the first 17 years of my life terribly sleep deprived, and it became motivation for me to build a life for myself where this wouldn't be my reality forever. And that's exactly what I did. I think a lot of people who go on to start their own business do so because they have aspirations of making huge money or gaining notoriety in their industry or building some sort of empire, and good for them, I guess. But for me, my motivation for starting my own business was simply that I didn't want anybody to be able to force me to wake up early ever again. And in doing this, I've learned something that very few people will have the luxury of learning, and that is that how much you sleep is important, but when you sleep, meaning specifically what hours you sleep, is far more important. We all have natural circadian rhythms, and they're different for everybody. I myself know that if I go to sleep at 11 p.m. and I wake up at 7 a.m., that's 8 full hours of sleep, but I will need an alarm clock to get me up at 7, and I will feel miserable. It will be a really hard thing for me to get up at 7. Fuck. With that said, if I go to sleep at 2 a.m. and I wake up at 10 a.m., I can wake up naturally without an alarm, and I wake up feeling refreshed and invigorated and in a great mood. Hell, I can sleep from 3 a.m. to 9:30 a.m., which is only 6.5 hours, and still feel pretty okay. But sleeping from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. or 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. just does not work for me at all. Over time, I've found that the absolute best thing I can do for my health, for my happiness, for my productivity, is to prioritize my sleep over everything else, and I do so without an ounce of shame. I never make plans before 11 a.m. and my workday doesn't start until 1 p.m. I never use an alarm clock to wake up unless it's a very specific extenuating circumstance and I have absolutely no choice, and even then I'm going to be pretty crusty about it. I practice sleep hygiene, which is basically a set of habits and routines that I follow every night to help set me up to have the best rest possible. For me, that includes having a hot shower right before I go to bed, putting on my favorite pajamas, changing my bed sheets often so they're always crispy and clean, setting the air conditioning really cold, and pulling down the blinds to make the room as dark as physically possible. And something else that I've more recently added to my bedtime regimen, which also really helps, is this super cool sleep mask from today's video sponsor, Manta Sleep. This is the Manta Sleep Mask Sound. It's a 100% blackout sleep mask with built-in, razor-thin Bluetooth speakers, so you can listen to music or white noise or whatever helps lull you to sleep the best. All you have to do is pair it with your phone, put it on, just like this, and then use these little blue tabs on the side to adjust the positioning of the earphones over your ears, and you're good to go. So this right here is the component that has the headphones built into it, and you can see how razor thin it is. The mask is excellent at blocking out light, but it's even better at blocking out sounds from, let's say, your inconsiderate neighbors who have a really obnoxious Harley Davidson and an even more obnoxious dog who's in their yard basically all night long barking for no necessary reason, just as a really non-specific example.
Will you two shut up? People are trying to sleep!
And the battery lasts about 20 hours. If you'd like to check out the Manta Sleep Sound Mask or any of their other really cool products, you could do so at the link right here. I'll also drop it in the description box down below. And if you use the code according to Nicole at checkout, you'll save 10% off your order. Thank you very much to Manta Sleep for sponsoring this video. Now, if you're a night owl watching this video with your grumpy, sleep-deprived eyes, you might be thinking, well, that's great for you, but that's just not reality for everybody. Not everyone can just tailor their schedules around their sleeping. And to some extent, you're correct. But what I do find quite interesting is the list of things that people are willing to rearrange their schedules and their lives for and the things that they're not. For example, if you have kids, or let's say you're even taking care of an elderly family member, it's very normal for you to prioritize those things and work your schedule around them. It's completely understood that those things have to take precedence over everything else, and your work and everything else has to find a way to fit around your priorities and your responsibilities, right? My question is, why is it considered normal and acceptable to find a job that, say, lets you pick your kids up from school at the time that you need to, but it's not considered normal or acceptable to find a job that allows you to sleep when your body needs to? Why is it normal to rearrange your entire life to care for somebody else, but not for yourself? I wish I had the answer to this question, but unfortunately, I don't. Many years ago, for a brief period of time, I had a retail job at a store that opened at 6 o'clock in the morning and closed at 11 p.m. at night. And when I did my interview and I had to fill out my availability, I put my availability starting at 8 a.m., which for me was already a nightmare. That meant I had to get up at 6:30 in the morning to be there for 8, but the idea of having to wake up at 4:30 to be there at 6 was something that I was absolutely just not willing to consider. And they hired me on nonetheless, and when I got there on my first day and I was handed my schedule for the week, it had me starting at 6 a.m. several days. And I went straight to my manager and I said, whoa, I think there's been a misunderstanding. My availability is to start at 8 a.m. And he demanded to know why. And I have a feeling that if I had told him that I had to drop my kids off to school before I came to work, he would have been pretty understanding of that. Or if I told him that I take public transit and the buses weren't running that early, he would have accepted that answer. But I made the mistake of being honest with him, and I told him, honestly, that's just really early for me to get up in the morning, and I can't do that, particularly if I'm going to have an inconsistent schedule that's going to have me scheduled until 11 or 11:30 at night on other days. I can't do it. I just physically can't do it. And he freaked out at me. He screamed at me. I was completely bewildered because I had never been spoken to that way by a manager or a teacher or anybody in that kind of position before, nor did I ever expect to be or want to be. But in that moment, I learned two things. Number one is don't tell your manager the truth. There's no incentive to being honest if they're going to use it against you. So tell them as little as you have to tell them, share as few details as you need to, and just say whatever it is that's going to get them to leave you alone. Retrospectively, I should have just said, oh, I take the bus and I can't be here that early, and just left it at that. And the second thing I learned was that I'm just not cut out for that kind of life. Like, I went home that night and I had a good cry, and I really don't know if that was because I had been screamed at or if it was because I was just so exhausted or a combination of the two, but I knew there had to be a better way because that's not the life I wanted for myself. Needless to say, I quit about 90 days later, but that was 89 days too late if you ask me. Statistically, the world's population is split pretty evenly between morning people and night owls. For every person that springs out of bed at 5 o'clock in the morning to hit the gym before they go to work, there's another person lying in bed fantasizing about throwing their alarm clock out the window. So which of these two scenarios is more likely? Is it more likely that half the world is lazy and entitled and unmotivated, or is it more likely that we've created a system in our society that really only works for some people and we force everybody else to conform and just deal with it? For those of you who are night owls like I am, I think it can be really beneficial to pursue some form of self-employment if that's at all feasible to you. But if it's not, there's other options. Maybe consider remote work for a company that's on a different time zone. You know, when it's 9 a.m. in California, it's already noon in New York. That's all I'm saying. And of course, there are always businesses that need evening shift workers or overnight workers. And so I think that if we really detach ourselves from this idea of having to start our day at 9 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning and allow more flexibility based on what your body is telling you, I think we would all be a little bit better off for it. Even if you really are stuck working your 9 to 5, taking small steps to improve your general sleep habits can make a world of difference. I know that sounds obvious, but it's so much more impactful than you can even ever imagine. For me, it's absolutely been my secret weapon to help keep my life in order, to keep my bills paid, to keep my house clean, and to give me some time to still socialize and do things I enjoy. As often as possible, try to spend your evenings doing things that help you unwind. That might mean reading a book, or watching some chill TV shows, or listening to some relaxing music. For me, that's going for a nice walk and having a hot shower before crawling into bed. Block out any light, noise, or anything else that could disturb your sleep, and most importantly, feel no guilt and no shame for rejecting things that get in the way of you living your best life. I'm genuinely curious to hear your thoughts on this topic, and so I would love to have a discussion in the comments. If you're a morning person, what does that feel like for starters? And if you're a night owl like me, and especially if you're stuck in a routine that fits more like a morning person, I'm very curious to know if you have any tips or tricks to help you get through your day without crashing and feeling exhausted and grumpy all the time, because I was definitely not very good at that. In particular, I'm really interested in hearing from anybody who might naturally have been a night owl and was able to turn themselves into a morning person. In truth, it's something that I've always kind of wanted to be able to do to some extent and never been able to quite get right. And so if you're somebody who's naturally been a late sleeper but were able to somehow reprogram your body to enjoy and appreciate and feel good in the morning, let me know in the comments section, number one, that it's possible, but let me know how you did it. If you enjoyed this video at all, if you found it to be helpful, educational, entertaining, anything of that nature, please go ahead and hit that like button. It really does actually help out the channel. Please subscribe if you haven't done so yet. Hit the notification bell. You can follow me on Instagram at according_to_Nicole. Other than that, thank you guys so much as always for watching. Take care, and I will see ya next week. I'm going to bed now.